Okay, welcome to our April webinar for Redesigning School Counseling for first-year schools. And in this webinar, we will be prepping for the final meeting of the Advisory Council, meeting 7. So here's today's agenda. I just noticed a typo in here. Let me get this real quickly. We will be, as we always do, very quickly reviewing the foundational beliefs in the process. We'll be looking at where meeting 7 falls into the process. We'll give you a little bit of time to do some school-to-school sharing, any ahas or questions that have come up. Then we'll prep for meeting 5. We'll look at what needs to be, meeting 7. We'll look at what needs to be done before the meeting, and we'll go over the handouts for the meeting and the tools for the meeting. Then we'll go back and do a kind of a detailed look at the webcast tabs for meeting 7. We'll look at how to enter activities into the online system, although that will be reviewed because you've been entering some of your activities already. And then just as a heads up, our next webinar is April 14th. What we'll be looking at during that webinar is just the process for submitting your portfolio electronically, so that it can be reviewed for, in Indiana, the Indiana Gold Star School Counseling Award, and then with National, the Ask a Ramp Award. So that's the agenda for today. And just very quickly, beliefs and review. First of all, just a reminder, we believe that the whole purpose of school counseling is to prepare students for academic success at the next educational level. And this pyramid is very important to our process, especially today, because today what we want to make sure is that the guidance activities and counseling activities that you and your advisory council are selecting for next year are aligned with your student choice goals. And will lead to the mastery of the guidance standards that support those student choices and the counseling goals that you have that support those choices. So this pyramid comes into play today, especially because we want these activities, the guidance activities and counseling activities, to make sure that they're supporting the student choice goals. Okay, so this is the process review. And way back when, last spring, or last fall for some of you, you put together your advisory council. Your advisory council had its first meeting to do an introduction. Then you worked on what your dreams were, and that vision became the whole foundation of this process. What are we trying to help kids be able to do, and what do we want the program ideally to look like? Then you started identifying your students' needs. You looked at their achievement needs and their student choice needs, and you came up with priority lists in those areas. And then you started looking at the students' guidance needs and counseling needs, and you came up with the priority list for those 2 areas. So at this point, after meeting 4, you had 4 priority lists, and probably the realization that your school counselors could not address all of those students' needs. So before going to goals, we, at meeting 5, looked at how to expand resources. And you had a discussion with your advisory council about what resources you already had. And then you talked about what resources were needed, and hopefully you got creative about how to expand those resources so that we could tackle more of the priorities that you developed during meetings 3 and 4. Then at meeting 6, you looked at defining student goals, and you came up with achievement goals, student choice goals, guidance goals, and counseling goals. But the primary goals that we're focusing on are those student choice goals. And the idea is that if we can hit those goals, achievement should go up. And then below that, if you meet your guidance and counseling goals, kids should make better choices. So the whole focus at this point is primarily on the student choice goals. So today we're going to look at activities. And again, there'll be activities that really will help kids make better choices in the areas that you've targeted as goals. So we'll look at what guidance activities will you do next year, what counseling activities will you do next year, advocacy activities for kids, and then program management activities. So we'll at this meeting we'll discuss those things and get that kind of defined. And then this is the final meeting with your advisory council, but after this meeting, you'll be working on activities to make sure, you'll be working on things to make sure that those activities actually come off the paper and into practice. So it may be developing guidance lessons to go along with some of the guidance activities, program calendar, individual calendars for the counselors, annual calendars for the counselors, and then an annual budget. So we'll look at some of those things as well. Okay, so that's the process. And before we get to the school-to-school sharing, we did have two questions that, that came up when you registered. One question was, can you upload more than one time? Can you upload more than once your the time use log? And the answer is no. You can when you upload something into the system, if you upload something else a second time, it will replace what you uploaded the first time. So if when you're uploading more than one document, in this case with the time use logs, you'd be uploading multiple documents because you have multiple counselors that you're uploading them for. What you should do is put them all into one file, all the different pages in the one file, and then you'll be able to just upload all of those pages all in one file. So very, very good question. I appreciate that. Any follow-up on that? Is that not clear to anyone? Okay. And then the other question we got was, which I love this question because it leads right into today, that there's a portfolio item called Crosswalk, and you noted that all the links in the system to Crosswalk are all dead, and I'm sure what to do. And that's true. The links are dead at this point. The Crosswalk isn't able to happen until you've got your goals in and your activities in. And then once that's happened, then the computer will make everything live so that the crosswalk appears. There's actually not anywhere where you enter anything on the crosswalk. What you've done is you've entered the activities and you've entered the goals, and then based on what you put in for the activities and the goals, the computer knows how to make that crosswalk. I'll show you an example of that in a second. But that happens after you've put in the activities and the goals. And that's what this whole process today that we're talking about, entering the activities, the crosswalk is the final thing that you'll do. And what we're checking for is to make sure that you don't have any goals that are not supported by activities, or activities that aren't aligned with any goals. So why are we doing them if they're not supporting any of your goals? So the computer generates this really cool report that'll make that real clear. So we'll go over that today. So okay, now let me go back to school-to-school sharing. So any ahas or or challenges or successes? So let's very quickly look to see what people have to add. So, let's start with Andrew. Andrew Davis. Any aha successes, challenges for your school as you've gone through this so far?
Gosh, where to start? I think the whole process has been really an aha, just of how much we're already doing. I think I was afraid going into this that we would be really overwhelmed at how much we need to do, that we're not already. But I think that we've been very pleasantly surprised at how much is already in place, just kind of refining those efforts and trying to get some of the non-program items off our plate, realizing how time-consuming those pieces are, and trying to make the appropriate people aware of them and hopefully respond in a way that will free us to do what is more important. So I think those are the big ahas for us, just that we're doing a lot already, but then also a lot of what we're doing is not really beneficial for students.
Right, right. Hopefully, and I think that's a really good place to be. You know, we find a lot of schools do have a lot of the program already in place. It's just a matter of getting it organized. But what I hope happens is, especially after this step, when you're able to print out all that list of activities, that folks will see how you're spending your time. And then also you've got all these priority things, you know, on those priority lists that you would love to do if you can have more time. One of the things that we did with our principal when our counselors in my building were going through this is we went with all the things on the priority list that we weren't addressing, and then we went with a list of all of the non-program activities that we were doing. And we said to the principal, you know, we'd love to swap you. If you can take something off of the non-program list, then look at all these things. You pick the thing you'd like us to spend our time on, and we'll add it to our program. So, but good that so much of what you're doing already you can just use in this program. That's good. So, Candace, how about you and Franklin? Anything to add? Aha, successes or challenges?
Well, I think one of the aha issues for Jerry and I when we met last time was the fact that with our guidance goals and priorities, as a middle school, we have over 45. And it's sort of like, whoa, that's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And it was nice that at least our advisory council was able to give us, you know, 4 or 5 that were high priority.
Good.
But having that many, you know, that many guidance standards even is just, it's a lot.
Yeah, it absolutely is. You know, I think there's so much that kids need to know and be able to do to, you know, get through academics well and to go on to some type of post-secondary. A lot of folks are kind of surprised at how much there is to do at the middle school level. And, you know, if we want kids to start making sound choices at the start of high school, all of that really needs to be covered in middle school, and there is a lot to cover. You're absolutely right. So some of the nice things, though, is that some of those standards, you can hit 5 or 6 standards all in one activity, which is, you know, kind of, I mean, it's a lot of standards, but it doesn't necessarily have to be a lot of activities. And then also, don't forget, we'll cover this today also in the activities part, that the activities don't have to be implemented by the school counselors. So like in a middle school, if there's a sound family and consumer science program where kids are taking all those courses, part of their national curriculum is to do career development education. So a lot of our guidance standards can be taught in the family and consumer science classes. Same thing in the high school with in the health classes. There's a lot of social personal curriculum in health that you can kind of use your health courses to teach some of that stuff. So I think the key for today, as you're going through this, is to really look for shortcuts. Where can you get others to help you, and where can you address several indicators all in one activity? So, okay, good stuff. Christine, how about you? Christine's at Eastern High School.
This is Kate Jones, but I was going to talk for the both of us.
Okay.
We're a little bit behind as far as we're going to double up the last 2 meetings and have a really long one just because of time crunch and stuff.
Sure.
But we need to really address with our panel that they're kind of giving it 25% in all the different areas and not really kind of narrowing it down. So we're really hoping this last kind of big meeting we can get them to understand where they really want us to focus and what they really want us, you know, to address. So that's kind of where we're at. We're hoping that this next one will be a really good one. We're kind of pretty positive towards it.
Great, great. And nothing wrong with being, you know, I never get upset when folks are a little bit, you know, slower in the process, as long as the process doesn't stop. So I'm glad to hear that you're having another meeting and you've got a plan for how to combine 2 to kind of get caught up a little bit. So that's good. Okay.
We thought it all kind of went together that way, too.
I'm sorry?
We thought that it all kind of would mesh together for the teachers at one big one, as well as some scheduling conflicts. So.
Okay, sounds good. David Campbell at Marengo Elementary, ahas or successes? Challenges?
Can you hear us? I'm not for sure that we're set up properly.
I can hear you.
Well, good. Not any particular ahas. For myself, I think the thing is getting organized here to get the final 2 meetings scheduled and accomplished and put together the portfolio material. So I also have Megan Smith here with me from Milltown.
Okay, great. Megan, anything to add?
I would agree. I'm in the same spot as David. I've got to schedule my 6th and 7th meeting. But I think overall this process is very helpful to me. It's providing me some focus, I think, as far as where to go with my program. And the input from the council members has been pretty good. So
great. Isn't it nice to have those council members become advocates for you? I just love to watch that grow and happen. That's cool.
Yes, I agree.
So, okay, sounds good. So, trying to think who we haven't heard from. That's the Eastern people. Who else haven't we heard from? Kate's from Eastern. Did we get all the different schools that are on this call? Okay, good. Well, let's then go on. One thing I wanted to talk about, because it's a little different this time, is that there's some preparation that has to happen before you get to the next meeting. Basically, step 1 is that you're going to enter the program goals. This is something that you probably, oops, come back here. This is probably something that you would have done anyway, because the meeting before this was talking about goals. But what I really wanted to emphasize here is that you cannot go on until you've entered the goals. You have to be able to do a crosswalk between the goals and the activities, and if the goals aren't entered, then there's nothing to crosswalk with. So goals have to go in first. If you don't do that, you'll get all confused, because you go to enter activities and it'll say, what goals is this activity going to address, and there won't be any goals in there. So you've got to enter your goals first. I can't stress that highly enough. Then the next thing you're going to do, step 2, is you're going to enter all of your current activities into the RSC online system. So you're taking all the activities that you did this school year that you're intending at this point to repeat in next school year, or things you're going to add the next school year, and you're going to put all of the activities that you're planning on doing in there. Okay, and that shouldn't be too difficult because you've already entered your non-program activities, so it's the same kind of thing. We'll go over that in a little bit, but you're just getting the activities in. Then, as soon as you've got your goals and activities in, then the crosswalk reports will be ready to print. So there's a goals crosswalk report and then an activities crosswalk report. I'll show you those in a minute as well. Then you're going to make copies of the following for your advisory council members, the 2 crosswalk reports. And then your council members are going to get involved in helping you think about, do we have enough activities, and do we have the right activities in place to address this goal? And vice versa, you'll look at each activity and say, is this activity there for a purpose? Is it helping us meet a goal, or is it just there because we've always done it and it doesn't really align with the goal, so why are we doing it? Maybe we should get rid of it. So, so you want to get your goals in and get your activities in, print the crosswalk report, and then you're ready to go to the next meeting. The other thing we suggest is that before this meeting that you do some thinking. And the counselors that will be facilitating or helping you to facilitate the meeting, spend some time thinking this through before you get in the meeting. So one question is there a goal that is not effectively supported by your current activities? And so if there is, then do you need to increase the impact of a current activity by adjusting the activity or involving additional students or whatever? So let's say that one of your goals was that you wanted all kids to choose to turn in their homework. And you've got an activity around homework completion, but there's only 7 students in the building that are participating in the activity. Well, maybe the activity is good, you just don't have enough kids participating. So think about that. Or it may be that you need additional activities. So it may be that there's, it's working well, but it's not enough all by itself what you're currently doing, so we're going to add on. And just a reminder that we have a searchable database of guidance activities. It's guidance lessons search. I think we've looked at that before, but once you're logged in, then you just click on guidance lessons in the left nav bar, and then you can type in the word homework, or you can type in a specific Indiana student standard for guidance, and it'll bring up activities that other schools have implemented around that same idea. The other thing you can do is you can say, we have this goal. We're not doing anything to support that goal or to help kids master it, and we really don't have time to add any more activities, so you probably are not going to even touch that goal. Let's just get rid of that goal. So another thing you can do then is to omit the goal. So the goals that you put in last time, if you find that there's no activities to support those goals, you really need to get rid of the goal, because you're not going to reach it if you're not doing anything to help the kids reach it. So, okay, and then the second question is there an activity that does not address a goal, or it's ineffective in meeting a program goal? And if that's the case, then there's a couple of ways you might think. We have a lot of times, it's not uncommon, where counselors have an activity that they really want to do, it's really meaningful, but when they go to connect it to a goal, there's no goals there that it addresses. So then we ask the counselors to think about, well, is there really another goal that you have that you've never, that you didn't put into the program, into the system, that for some reason didn't pop up in all of your discussions with your advisory council? And if so, it's very simple to just go back and add a goal, and then you can connect the activity to it. Or it may be an activity that you inherited from the counselor before you. It doesn't really connect to any of your goals. It's, it's an activity that's out of date now or not needed now, and so that activity should be omitted. So what we're looking at in this crosswalk is, do we need to make adjustments to the goals, or do we need to make adjustments to your activities? And our purpose is to make sure that we have enough going on, enough activities going on, so that you can reach your goals. So, okay, so let's go to the online system. First, let me show you what those crosswalk reports look like, so you'll know kind of where we're headed. This is the crosswalk report for the goals. So these are student choice goals. So attend Algebra 1 tutoring sessions weekly. That's one of their goals. And so in the school, the activity that they've put in is individual guidance meeting with targeted Algebra 1 students. And I'm assuming that they're going to talk to the kids during those meetings about the importance of attending this Algebra 1 tutoring session every week. Creating a 4-year course plan. There's the goal. They want all kids to do that. The activity is that they're going to do with each of the students a 4-year course plan update. So when I look at this crosswalk report, I don't see any red flags. I see that all of the activities, all of the goals are supported by activities. This one here, turn in all homework on randomly selected days. This is a homework goal that they had. This activity title, not turning in homework, impact on grades, this doesn't really tell me what they're doing. So it may be a great thing, but the activity title is unclear. So I don't really know what's happening with that goal. So keep in mind as you're writing your activity titles to make them clear and concise, so it's real clear what's happening. So okay, so that's the goal crosswalk. Here's the activity crosswalk. This time we identified each of the activities, and then we listed the goals that that activity was supporting. So financial aid, keyboarding warm-up paragraphs. These, I'm assuming, were in keyboarding class. They were having the kids type warm-up paragraphs that were about financial aid, and they felt that by doing that, they were going to address these two financial aid goals. So each activity is then, it shows which goals that activity is addressing. But you'll notice that we have a flag here. Not turning in homework, impact on grades. That's the activity. but right now, when this report was printed, the activity does not support any program goals. So my question is, why are you doing the activity then? So, so any red flags that show up like that need to be resolved. You either need to drop out a goal or add another activity or whatever. We just want to make sure that all the activities are goals-based, that we're not just doing them for fun or because you inherited the activity, but they're really aligned with your goals. And I'm hoping that some of you are thinking ahead, then as your goals change, your activities will change. So if you meet your goals this coming year, then maybe you'll have some new goals for the year after that, and then your activities will swap out to address those goals. So that's what the crosswalk reports look like. Let's go back then to the online system, and let me scroll up here. So in your when you log in, let's go first to the webcast tab, and in the webcast tab, I'm going to scroll down to April. So here's a couple of here's a webcast to watch. Then in the next line, let's just take a look at this. It says search guidance lesson plans. So I can click on this tool, and that takes me to the page where I can search for those plans. So I can, let's say I was interested in helping kids complete the FAFSA. I'm just going to type the words FAFSA in and just search for that term.
It still works.
And let me back up here.
It didn't filter the way I wanted. So
We used to be able to do this on the IDOA website, but it's all gone now.
Okay, so what I did, interesting, when I typed in the word FAFSA, I got a report that said that out of the gazillions of lesson plans that are in here, there were none that addressed FAFSA. So if I put in the word career, and let's just see what lesson plans are in there, then I get that there were 18 results, 18 lesson plans that have to do with career development. I could go back and say, give me just ones that apply to high school grades. And 10 of the 18 were for high school students. So you can keep narrowing this down. Let's say that there's one of your goals that you want to do just a search for activities that address a specific goal. I can click on select, and here's all of the indicators, and I can put in, let's just put in one on learning styles, see what shows up. Put in the one on learning styles, and I'm going to take the word career out of here and go down and search, see if we have anything in there on that. Right, so we've got 3 lesson plans in there already. We just started this last spring. So we've got 3 lesson plans in there already that that are addressing learning styles. So one other thing I wanted to show you is if you find a lesson that you really like, one of the things you can choose to do is to view the whole lesson plans. That's going to give you the procedure and the materials that are required. It gives you everything. And this is kind of a nice tool. If you really like the lesson and you just want to use it, instead of typing everything over again, you can click on Import into My School's lesson plans, and that will pull everything off of whoever wrote it. It'll put it into your lesson plan, your online portfolio, and then down at the bottom, it'll give a reference to the person who originally wrote it. Just saves you the time of having to retype everything. The other thing it does is that it gives that lesson plan credibility. You'll notice as you're searching lesson plans, some will tell you that it has been imported to other schools 3 times or 5 times. And when I'm looking through, I like to look at, kind of look closely at those that have already been imported to other school systems. So, at any rate, I heard somebody whisper that DOE used to provide this service. When I was at DOE, this is something that we set up on the DOE website, and then when DOE asked our organization, after I left DOE, to maintain and continue to provide the support for Gold Star School Counseling, we incorporated this into our online system. So you're correct, it's no longer offered on DOE's site because it's here. So, so that's that. We didn't want to duplicate each other's efforts. So, okay, so we've, oops, let me go back to webcast. We'll scroll back down to April. Okay, so I can, here's the intro. We've done the lesson plans. We're conducting the Advisory Council Meeting 7. I'll show you that in a sec. Entering minutes, entering your activities. Let's go and look at that. Here's a demo. And then here's where you go to actually enter the activities. And you'll notice that there are activities that are already entered for this school. This is Sample High School. So I've got 4 guidance activities in here already. If I click on that, here's the names of the activities. But I'm going to enter a new activity. So I create an activity. And this is the same thing that you did before when you were entering the non-program activities. Title, description, activity type would be, you know, guidance, academic, career, personal, social, counseling, advocacy, management, non-program. The student choice goals. Now, this is where if you haven't entered any goals, you won't be able to connect it with any goals. So there's 4 goals in here total. I can go ahead and I'm going to click show all. So once you get your goals in, however you type them in, those exact words will print in these boxes. And then you just need to say, okay, here's an activity that's going to address this goal and that goal. Okay? And then same thing with the guidance and counseling goals. I show all. And here's all of the indicators that you identified. And we're just clicking this activity is going to address these goals. One thing, just a reminder, for the Gold Star Award, there needs to be activities that address each of the Indiana student standards for guidance, each of those indicators. And you put all those indicators in as goals, but you also have to assure that every one of those goals has an activity that goes with it. So just kind of keep that in mind that you need to have an activity for each of those indicators. A way to check that is to just print out that goals crosswalk, and if you have any red flags there, then you need to know you have a problem. So, okay, so there's that. I'm going to go ahead and hide all, make that a little shorter. And then for the activity, the grade level of the students, of the month that it occurs, who's responsible for it, and your steering team members' names will already be here. But if not, if there's somebody missing or somebody new, just type their name in, and then our computer will capture them. So this is a new activity to our school this year, and then you just save and add another activity, save and return to the activities page, or you can also come back and get rid of the activity, delete the activity at the bottom. So, okay. Okay, so we've entered the activities, and then the next step is asking you to look at the program design. So to do that, and we'll add a tool in here. I didn't realize we didn't have that in there. I'm going to go in a different way. I'm going to go up to Program Activities. When you're checking the program design, if you go in this way, here's what you're checking. You get down to Program Check, and you're looking at the 2 crosswalk reports, and we're just checking the design. Are there goals that don't have activities? No, that's good. Are there activities that don't support any goals? Yeah, we have 1 flag, so I need to take care of this flag. Okay, let me pause here and see what questions you have. Okay. Okay, one little tip too, when the reviewers are reading your portfolio in July, they will look at these two crosswalk reports, and if there's anything in red, that will keep your portfolio from being approved, and you'll get an email from Amanda Cullen that says, please address these red issues before we can approve your portfolio. So to save everybody some time, just really make sure you look at those two crosswalk reports and check to see that you don't have any red flags. Okay, so okay, I think that's that. So that's the end of April. May is to just do the, I'm sorry, that's the end of April is to just do that crosswalk report. On the activity reports, here's what that report looks like. I really like this report because it just kind of gives you a nice summary of everything that's happening in your school. So here's first activity, the months that it's happened, who's going to implement it, the description, and here's the goals that it's going to address. Second activity, the who, here's the what, here's the why. The why is because it's going to address these goals. So, and you can see, again, what we were talking about earlier, here's one activity, but in this case, there's 5 goals in there that activity is going to address. So, okay. Okay, that sounds good. Let me go now to the, let's see, that was the manual tab. And in the manual, if I scroll down to meeting 7, so you've got let's look at the tools first. You've got the prep for meeting 7. You've got the agenda of the facilitator notes. This is the warm-up activity this time. When you get into facilitator notes, it involves M&Ms, and there's a slide that tells you what to do with different colors of M&Ms. So we gave you a copy of the slide here. The guidance activity survey. This is an optional sheet, and it's, I think, I used it when I was in my school, and I found it to be extremely helpful. So remember we mentioned before that you don't have to implement all of the activities yourself. One of the things we began to suspect in our school was that there's a lot of guidance going on that we didn't know about it. I think the we found out that our English department was teaching kids how to create resumes, and we thought, oh, we're repeating what you're doing. So we developed this little guidance activity survey that you could pass out to your teachers or your counselors or your community members, and just to get an idea of what they're doing. So here's how it works. First of all, when we pass this out to all of our teachers, they just circle I'm a teacher. In some schools, we've been told that counselors don't communicate as well as we'd like them to do, so it may be that your counselors are needing to kind of get a handle on what everybody else is doing in your department. We also sent this out to key community members. We wanted to know what guidance activities were happening in the Boy Scout troops, in the church youth groups, because we wanted to see if we could not duplicate anything that they were doing if what they were doing was addressing all kids, or the majority of kids collectively. So that was kind of interesting to us too. So basically, here's how it works, is the person writes the name of the activity that they're doing. We've defined guidance and counseling. So they write the name of the activity. Then they're putting a C or G in. Is this a guidance activity or counseling activity? What percentage of students participate in this activity prior to leaving our building? And that's kind of important, because if this is a family and consumer science teacher, for example, but only 10% of the kids in the building take the course that teacher teaches, then you know that it may be a great activity, but it's only hitting 10% of your kids. You might want to think about then how to expand it to all the kids. In our school, there was a lot that was hit through family and consumer science, and we were considering making some of those classes, one of the classes, a required course, because it hit so many of the the guidance standards. And then if this is a guidance activity, what student indicators does this activity cover? And what you would have done is given them a list of the guidance indicators, the Indiana Student Standards for Guidance in Indiana, or the ASCA standards outside of Indiana, and then they would just write down the numbers of the guidance indicators that were addressed. So the beauty of this is it takes you a little bit of time to do, but if, in my case, the English teachers were already teaching every kid in our building how to create a resume, why was I doing it? So it gave me a chance to pull back on some of the things that I was doing to discontinue them because they're happening in other places in the building. There was one of our math teachers who, for some reason, was really hyped up about GPA, and he was teaching all of his kids in his math class how to calculate a GPA and why it was important to keep their GPA up. And so we just coordinated a little bit with what he was doing, and then I didn't have to do that anymore. So I think you'd be surprised how much guidance is going on outside of the school counseling program, and this gives you a way to kind of coordinate with that. Okay. So that's the guidance activity survey, and then the tasks following meeting 7. You've got that as well. So the handouts are just cover page, agenda. The agenda, let's open that real quickly, is just basically we're going to do a lot of review, and then we're going to go over your existing school counseling activities and the ones you plan to do next year, and we're just going to have a discussion about are there activities that we should omit because they're not working well, they're not reaching all kids, or they're not addressing a goal, so why are we doing them? And are there activities that we should add because we have a goal with nothing to support it. There's no activities to support reaching that goal, so do we need to add things? Okay, so, and then the process diagram that we do every time. And then here's the activities presentation. Let's open that real quickly. Okay, so in this presentation, you'll notice the first few slides here are just the going over the process again. Then we need to spend some time going over the goals that you established at your last meeting. So you're going over your academic goals, achievement goals, student choice goals, guidance goals, and counseling goals. Then we want to review terminology again before we get into talking about activities. So, I'm just going to pick it up there. So we're addressing, we're reviewing the types of school counseling activities. So here's guidance activities, we're defining that. Counseling activities, we're defining advocacy, management, non-program. Then we're reviewing that it's not just the school counselors that can provide guidance activities. That there's, when we're thinking about these guidance activities, we should think outside the box, not just counselors, but what activities can teachers do? If you have a teacher advisor program, advisors do, what can community members do? So then we're reviewing the activity delivery, and we're just reminding people, that in counseling that it's also not just counselors, that there are some times when personal social issues are not real heavy duty, and it may be that a teacher can implement something minor that's going to impact a social personal issue. Or at level 2, it could be peer helpers or teacher advisors, people who have training in friendly listening and information sharing, also have training on confidentiality, the limits of confidentiality, that those kinds of folks can deliver counseling activities. And then licensed school counselors, licensed school social workers, and school psychs are doing the more heavy-duty counseling that's based on counseling theory and folks that have had supervised practice experience. Okay, so then we're telling people, so we've done all that review. So today our goal is to add or omit school counseling activities as needed to meet our program goals, And then we're reminding them, okay, we've already talked about our goals. And then the first thing we're going to do is an activity crosswalk analysis. So we've given them the activity crosswalk, and we're asking them to examine the activity crosswalks, which lists our current school counseling activities. We're asking them to circle any activities that do not support our goals and they feel are there to be, that are, or are ineffective in helping us reaching our program goals. They can circle them. There's also going to be those red flags on there, and that will help them to think about that as well. And then do we need an additional program goal, or do we need to omit activities? And then we'll give them a copy of the goals crosswalk, and we're giving them some time to examine that crosswalk, circle the goals that are not effectively supported by our current activities, and again, they'll look for them, but also there'll be those red flags there. And then the questions are, should we increase the effectiveness of the current activity by adjusting the activity or including more students? Do we need to add an additional activity to support the goal because we don't think with the activities that we have that we're going to be able to reach the goal? Or do we just want to take the goal out of there because we realize that we have the best intentions, but there's just not the time and energy to address that goal this year? So then we'd go back and we'd take that goal out. So those are basically the two tasks. We're going to just analyze and talk about the activity crosswalk, and then analyze and talk about the goals crosswalk. So, and then the final thing, and this is really important, it's really important that you speak up here if this is an issue, and also the counselor or your principal speaks up if this is an issue. So the question is, given who we are and the resources that we have available, is it realistic to think that we can accomplish all the activities that we have established for the school counseling program? If you are hesitant at all that you can't do everything that the advisory council and you have been talking about, you need to speak up, because after this point, you're accountable for those activities. So if you don't think you're going to be able to do them, you need to get them off the list. And you just got to step up and say, I work 8 hours a day. I stay an hour after school, outside contract time, to work on all this, and that's all I have, and I can't get all that done, I don't think. I think at this point with your advisory council, there's enough trust built that folks realize that when you say that, it's the truth. And so I think that will be well received. However, I have to also say that very rarely do we get to this point and the counselors feel that they're on overload. I think all through this, your advisory council has grown to know you and respect you and care for you, and they also understand the realism, how real it is that kids have brought all these issues to the table and that you can't do it all. And I think they're going to want your program to be manageable. They're not going to want it to be a program that's going to kill you or not get done because it's too much. So that's the final check. It's given who we are and the resources we have, is what we're, this path that we're about to go down in implementing these activities, is it realistic? And then just kind of keep in mind, too, that the accountability starts here, that at the end of next school year, you'll be reporting on, did you accomplish these activities that you said you were going to do? We'd like, you would want your answer to be able to be, yes, I did all the activities, so you don't want there to be too much on this list. So, but again, I don't think you're going to have to worry about it, because I think the advisory council at this point understands, and your administration understands that, they have to be realistic about their expectations of you. And on the other hand, whatever you come up with, I think they understand, too, that you want to be accountable for those things. Okay, any questions on that before I go forward? Okay, so that is the end of that activity. I think we've gone over everything. We've looked at the manual. We've looked at the webcasts. We've talked about the concepts. We've done the PowerPoint presentation. I think we're good. Let me go back one more thing. In the webcast, just kind of a heads up on what's going to happen in May. In the webcast, in May at our May meeting, there's just kind of odds and ends stuff at the end. You'll be spending May uploading paper documents. This is not part of the online system, but it's things that we need to see. So we'll talk about these in May, but most of it has to deal with professional development and advocacy for your program. A lot of it I hope you'll find that you have already. So your school counseling program brochure, there's samples and stuff if you need to develop that, doing public relations activities. So we'll talk about this stuff in May, but it does not involve the advisory council. So your April meeting is the last meeting of your advisory council. A lot of people like to do celebrations at that meeting. You know, they'll all go out to dinner, or they'll bring in, you know, cookies or something just to celebrate, or, you know, a small thank you token or whatever. You know, I think you understand the time that your advisory council has committed to all of this, and to feel appreciated, I think, is important. Next year, we recommend that the advisory council meets twice during the year. They'll meet once at the end of the first semester to talk about how your activities went, and you'll be able to print out an activity list and by the calendar days, so you can kind of go through all the activities, and then at the end of the year you'll do the same thing for second semester. Some schools like to meet 3 times. They meet in as soon as school starts to just kind of get everybody back engaged, and then they'll do the 2 end of semester meetings. I'm telling you this because it would be nice to explain to your advisory council that while your heavy-duty work is over, you're going to continue to seek their input twice a year. At the end of each year, we also like the advisory council to look at your new data to see if the activities are having an impact. So, and that brings us to final thing. We've got 5 minutes left. If you have not done it, we really need to survey again. Hopefully you've been getting the emails about the Learn More survey, which is also the Redesigning School Counseling survey. So if you've not surveyed your students this spring, you need to, and that really needs to get into your practice every spring. You'll use that data each summer to meet with your advisory council and to go over that data to see if your program is having an impact. So we did the survey last spring as your baseline data. The survey this spring we want to look at, but the survey next spring, in the spring of 2013, that's going to be really important because that's your first year of follow-up data. So just as a reminder, to get into that survey, actually, let me go back and do it this way. To get into the survey, you would go to Program Data, and you'll just go through these steps. So here's an intro, how it works. This school does not have grades 3-7, so you can see that grades 3-7 is not dark, and there's no links out here. The school does have 8th grade. And then also, in addition to the student surveys, Redesigning School Counseling also wants to have input from your teachers. So just a reminder, there's teacher codes that go in so you can survey your teachers as well. So hopefully you've done that. If not, it may be something that you think about doing. Ideally, we would like you to survey all of your students. And the reason for that is twofold. One, because then you get data from all of your students, but also there's a new tool in the survey. We've been able, we changed the survey a little bit. There's 3 questions that say, one question says, would you like Learn More Indiana to send you targeted messages about areas, about things that are in this survey? And and do we have permission to release your information to your surveyed information to Learn More? What that allows Learn More to do is they can then go through and they can pull up from our computer a list of students who have said that they haven't completed the FAFSA, or maybe they're free and reduced, they're planning to go to college, and they don't even know what a FAFSA is. And then Learn More can send them a targeted email about FAFSA and why it's important for them to do it. If your students haven't surveyed, then they don't have the opportunity to have those emails from Learn More. Then we did the same thing with colleges. There's another question that says, would you like to receive targeted information from the colleges? And if so, can we release your information to the colleges? And if the kids say yes to that, that is really cool, because then Purdue can say, give me a list of kids who are interested in Purdue, who are planning to go to college, who are interested in information technology, and have never done a campus visit. And then they can send those kids an email that says, we're having an IT day on campus on May 30th, and we'd love you to come. So, but again, if kids don't survey, they don't get to they have that. And the third question says, would you like your information to be released to your school counselor? And then that allows the middle school counselors and the high school counselors to do the same thing. They can say, give me a list of kids who get D's and F's on their report card who don't know where to find extra help in our building, and then they can send out an email straight to those kids. So, so we encourage you to survey 100% of your kids for that reason. I understand that it's hard to get kids to the computer, and if you can't do that, at a minimum, we'd ask you to survey 30 students randomly selected per grade level. At least then your students' needs would go into the pool of statewide data that the Department of Education uses when they're looking at programming around student guidance. So okay, and just a reminder, if you are doing the 8 through 12 middle school or high school survey, when you go to get the codes, that's going to take you to what looks like the Learn More site, but you'll notice up here it's still on our website. We just do this now on behalf of, we've combined the RSC survey and the Learn More survey. And when you go in there, there'll be a set of questions that says, which survey questions you want to give to kids. So again, this is just something that we want you to get in the practice of doing each spring. That each spring you collect a new set of data, and then you meet with your advisory council every spring to look at that data and to determine what it says about your program and how well the program is working. So I think that's it. Any final questions?
Yeah, I could use some clarification. I've gotten some feedback within the corporation that Learn More was solely focused at the middle school, high school level, and not at the elementary level. So am I really okay if I just really do my surveying through, ASAI and not via Learn More? I mean, is it integrated in some fashion?
It's exactly the same thing. So let me go back. When you click, so for elementary, to get elementary codes, if you had elementary kids in the building, right here in this section, there would be an enter here, and you'd get your elementary codes. So when you click on this is actually the RSC survey that we've given for years. But last year, or I guess it's been 2 years now ago, we went to Learn More and said, why give two different surveys? DOE is using this survey, you've got a different survey, let's combine them. So let's just use one, and you suggested to them that they use the RSC survey, and Learn More said fine. So it's the same thing. When you click here, it looks like you're going to the RSC survey, to the Learn More survey, but this is the RSC survey. That make sense?
It does. And the calendar window to do these surveys is from when to when?
From April 15th to June 15th. So there's three months. You don't have to do all grade levels at the same time. So if it works out, it works better to survey your seniors in April. You can get them in April, get your freshmen in May, 10th graders in June. That doesn't matter. And to answer your previous question, yes, Learn More is very interested in elementary students as well, and we've been really pushing that with them. We've suggested to them that they're very interested in doing an elementary survey. That may be in the works for next year. We just think that's really important to start looking at student choices, not in 8th grade, but in kindergarten, really. So they're very, the survey, let me go back once more. This survey, our 3 through 7 survey, that may end up being a Learn More elementary survey next year. And again, that's in discussion, so I don't know where that will end up. And it may be that they decide to contract with someone else to do an elementary survey too. So, but we've talked with them about that.
And then one final question. I feel like I'm taking up too much time. I mean,
no, that's fine.
Last year did all the surveys. I really hope to do them this year, but in terms of having a successful portfolio, as long as it's been done once, that's sufficient.
Yes, that's correct. For the purposes of Gold Star, if you've looked at one set of student data, that's sufficient. Yeah. And I agree with you. For the purpose of good programming, it would be good to look at data every year. To renew your Gold Star 3 years from now, they'll want you to look at an updated set of data. But if you were to not survey in between now and 3 years from now, nothing bad would happen to you in terms of your Gold Star award. Okay, does that make sense? Okay, any other questions? Okay, well, as always, I appreciate everybody's being here and going over this. I'm just so excited to see your portfolios. We're getting really close to the end. Congratulations on getting to or almost to your last advisory council meeting. And I am just so appreciative of the time that your advisory council members have given to all of this, as well as to what you guys are giving to all of this. So thank you so much, and we'll talk to you in May. Thank you.